To tonight's webinar, which is 2024 Digital Trends. With me is my good friend, Nikki Jerd. And Nikki owns a website development company in Cairns called Precedence, but she's also the brainchild behind Podiatry Clinic websites. So if you haven't checked that out, go to podiatryclinicwebsites.com, have a look at some of the podiatry clinic websites that Nikki has actually done in her team. But you got 21 people working there?
Very geeky people, sleep under the desk, drink beer variety people.
Yeah, so it's quite interesting.
Good fun.
Nikki's not in a garage locked away somewhere and doing websites there. It's actually a real business. But we're not here to talk about websites. We are here to talk about digital trends trends in 2024. So Nikki, over to you.
So first of all, Tyson, I want to give you and anyone else who's connected today permission to interrupt and ask questions along the way, because we will be talking about technical things. And I love it when you go, oh, Nikki, I have no idea what that means, and lets me explain it in a little bit more detail. But I also think it's important for businesses here to be able to explore some of these ideas and deep dive into some of the things they might think are relevant or irrelevant for their business, depending on how it turns out. We've got about an hour here together today, and I've got some categories of trends that I want to run through. I'm not going to be talking about things like flying cars or uh, augmented reality or things like that. The focus of today's trends is about things that are starting to prove themselves, that are in the marketplace, that are things that customers are now kind of expecting, and we can implement them in our business straight away. So this is all about what a small business, particularly a podiatry business, could implement in their business straight away. So no flying cars today.
Okay.
Apologies if that's what you were hoping for.
So, and if anyone has any questions, yeah, type them in the chat box, and because I'll be keeping an eye on that. So I'll just dive in and interrupt you, Nikki, if something comes through.
Yes,
And
please. That'd be good.
Jonathan Small's on here, so I'm expecting questions.
Excellent. Jonathan Small always has the best questions. Jonathan, nice to see you again. Um, uh, and look at that. He's got something already. Nice to see you, Jonathan. I appreciate you being here. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is something that I think is a big part of most businesses' marketing strategy now, and that is social media. The social media landscape has changed a fair bit over the last 12 months, but also there's been some things on the increase and some things in decline, and I wanted to go through those and see where does everyone sit these days and maybe where they should be focusing their attention. So the first thing to know is, well, Facebook's for grandparents. Is yeah, if you're still actively posting on Facebook, chances are you have a grandchild. And once upon a time, you would have got updates about your grandchild from Facebook, and now,
You don't?
18-year-olds do not turn on to Facebook like they once did. It doesn't light them up because grandma's there.
Yeah,
It's
it's true. I like Facebook, and I do have a grandchild.
You do,
Damn
yeah.
it. There
And
you
you're in
go.
the age demographic of Facebook people. So people who still love Facebook, you're bang in the middle.
And
So
what's interesting is today I just finished releasing part 2 of how I chose my employer. Part 1 was last week, and nearly all the new graduates that came through, most of them mentioned when I asked them, "Well, how did you find an employer? How did you choose where you were going to work, and where did you look for positions?" Nearly all of them said they went to Instagram.
oh yeah, that's good. That
Yeah,
confirms the trends.
yeah. So they were saying that they would hear about a job position, and yeah, say for example, it was my old clinic, Pro Arch Podiatry. They would then first up go to Instagram and go and find out, did I have a page there? And if I had a page there, then they were searching through the page and say, does this business look like the type of place I want to work? And does it match the ad that was there? I thought that was really interesting.
So I think if you have a Facebook page right now and you're actively updating it, and you've done this for some time, you would have noticed that engagement has dropped dramatically. In fact, now you'd be like, oh, was that tumbleweed?
Yeah.
There's just very few likes, there's very few comments, and certainly people are not sharing posts like they once were. And people are just not posting as much about their own life. We've really become a lot more private on social media, particularly on Facebook. And so, what the implications of this are is that the people who are there are not spending as much time there because there's not as much to see as there once was. And it's really now a pay to play space for businesses. If you're not paying for advertising, chances are you're just not really getting any cut through on that channel. So that's something for you to consider. Many people feel quite bad that they don't update their Facebook often enough. They feel quite guilty. And I'm going to say to you, this is a time where I will relieve you of that guilt, because chances are, even if you're posting, you just wouldn't be getting seen that much anyhow. So Facebook says, well, we haven't actually released proper stats for many, many years, but it is presumed that Facebook has about 2 billion monthly active users. And the monthly active user is how we judge people on social media, how we judge the efficacy of those social media platforms. And the activity of a Facebook user has dramatically decreased. So they don't spend as many minutes there, or as many hours, depending on how
Yeah.
devoted to doom scrolling you are. And so the people who are there are just not as active as they once were.
What about in groups, for example, like a group compared to
Mm.
just your own personal page?
Yeah, this is probably the last active bastion inside Facebook. Most businesses don't tend to have a group, they tend to be more of a community service kind of a space. But we do see people having most of their online Facebook activity inside those groups. And part of that is because we get notified when there's group posts and when there's group activity. So that is the center point of action now. Could we have a group in a podiatry clinic? I don't know. Let's throw it up and see what sticks.
I
Could
think you
you
can.
think of a use case? Yeah, I think you
Well,
probably could
there's
too.
one when I was talking to like a client, and we were talking about in their area setting up a group that was based around walking and activity. So they got in contact with other walking groups, and then they were trying to form like a group page where people could find out where all the different walking groups were in their area. But then they were sort of not screaming, "Hey, look at me, I'm a podiatrist," but they were just adding information in there. And eventually you could see that that group was run by a podiatrist, and they did get patients right.
Yeah, and I have seen some businesses very cleverly try to form a community around a group like that. I think, is this a reasonable thing that a business could take on? Yeah, it does take a fair bit of time investment to start that group off. And you kind of have to seed it. You need some, like in that case, you need some walkers to get in there and
Yeah,
start interacting. Because in an ideal world, you're not the one pushing the posts, that the group does that. And I know in your case, Tyson, you do have a group for owners, and you still do a lot of the pushing of that community. There isn't a lot of self-sufficiency in that yet,
I
so
do a lot
you
of
would
pushing.
know. You do a lot of
It's a
pushing. I
it's a
know
lot
you
of
do.
pushing. Yeah.
You're very proactive, and so it is a hard slog to try and get one of these community groups off the ground. And I would say you've worked pretty hard on that, but still, you are the center point of that group. In an ideal world, the group forms itself. So people will post a question and group members will answer and respond to that question. So that's kind of the holy grail of groups. But is it worth your time? Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. Certainly in the sports groups, the sports spaces, there would be, yeah, there's some good traction there. I have
So
seen
so
in,
which social media platforms are you saying are the ones that everyone's paying more attention to?
oh, can we get to that in a second? Let's put Facebook to
Ah,
bed first.
okay.
Let's
Okay.
let's bed this down first. So you
Okay.
jumping ahead of the class. Yeah. So uh, I think there are some opportunities there, but trying to drill into the opportunity that's in your local community is where the challenge is. Now we have a question that's related to this, and while we're still on Facebook, so Jonathan said, "Chat seems to be a growing thing on Facebook. How could businesses best make use of those, or would it not be worth the time invested?" Um, Good question, Jonathan. I noticed that chats are best effective when they're smaller groups of people. They don't tend to work well when you have like 30 plus people in a single chat. I notice if someone or a business creates a large chat, people just turn off and they leave that group. So how could you best use it? Maybe if you were going to be running a specific small scale program with a group of patients, that's perhaps you need to be able to update them if information and changes. That would be the way to utilize it. Don't think it has a great deal of efficacy for businesses. It's better maybe for one-off things like a event organization or keeping in touch with those groups. Chats tend to be like sending a group text message. So treat it in a similar way. And from a marketing perspective, group text messages, or even just text messages in general, are very intrusive. People don't really love them when they come through from a marketing avenue. So keep that in mind if you want to experiment with it. What do you think about the chat thing, Tyson? Have you been added to a group chat and you're like, nah, this isn't for me?
I hate it. I hate it when I've been added to it, and next thing my phone's going ding ding, and I'm in a spot where I can't turn it off, and I keep hearing it dinging, or it might be because my phone's connected to my iPad, and the phone's out of reach, but the iPad is closer, but I still can't get to it, and I haven't turned the volume down, and I just keep getting this ding. Usually, when I'm added to a group, if all of a sudden it starts getting really active, I very quickly leave the group.
Yeah, I think it's because they are so intrusive. They're designed for instant messaging, and that's how text messaging is as well. All right, so let's shift our focus from Facebook, unless anybody has any more Facebook questions. And we're going to talk about some of the other platforms. And
Ooh.
you've already brought up Instagram, so let's start there. So Instagram, the numbers on Instagram are about half of Facebook, but the activity of the people who are on Instagram is that they tend to stick around for longer inside there. And one of the major reasons is because Instagram stole a feature from another platform, and that is the short form video called Reels. And people are kind of hooked on them.
Mm.
So people will sit around in Instagram and Facebook to an extent, but there's not as much real work on Facebook as there is on Insta, and they'll scroll through them.
I do
And
that
that's
all the
really,
time.
yeah, doom
I get
scrolling.
sucked in. I just get sucked into it.
So that's really where social media in general has headed towards the short form video. And if I can just put Instagram to the side for a second, because it is, I feel, in a transition space, it's on decline as well, especially around the photography part of Instagram. And I want to talk about short form video in general, because that's the content that people are absorbing. And I think as business owners, we are pretty bad at this. Most business owners I know do not take any video content, or if they do, it's sporadic or experimental, and it's not something that they've considered as an ongoing strategy. And for this reason, one of the most popular right now and growing social media network is TikTok. It has been for a little while now. Um, the videos that I post on both Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, the numbers of views on TikTok kind of alarm me. So, as a really good example, I posted something quite recently on all three platforms. On TikTok, I got around about the 200,000 views and 100 comments from strangers. On Facebook, I got 2,000 views and about 50 comments from close friends. So you can see from a marketing perspective, what we call organic reach, that is people seeing your stuff that you don't have to pay for, is dramatically larger, like not just a little bit larger, but dramatically larger on TikTok. And something that surprised me is I found my most recent kind of semi-viral video was the comments came from other people in my local space. And I didn't really know that was possible on TikTok, but TikTok is definitely exposing videos to people who are in your local area where that content is relevant. Also, about 18 months ago, I went to a workshop where up here in Cairns, it was a tourism workshop, and TikTok was invited to speak at it. And they said in Australia, their demographic is that 70% of their Australian users are the heads of a household. So they're a decision maker, they're a mum and dad, they have purchasing power. And that's where I kind of started to take TikTok seriously, that it's not just for dancing kids anymore,
Well, I
which
think that's
is
the
where
thing.
it came from.
When you think of TikTok, you think of your daughter and
Hmm.
kids that you know getting there and doing all the moves together. And yeah. So, and I always said, if you catch me doing any of that on TikTok, something's
Mm-mm.
wrong.
Something's very wrong.
But I
Yeah.
did. I was listening to a podcast, and there was a guy in there who was a builder, and he went onto TikTok. His daughter said, "You should get onto TikTok," and he's like, "Oh, and dance." No, you should talk about some building stuff. So he was I think I can't remember what it's called, something like Nailed It, and he was just showing what he could do with nails and his hammer and all that. On this podcast, he was talking about, I can't believe I'm a 40-year-old builder who's not tech savvy at all, and I have 500,000 followers on TikTok. And next thing, he was getting companies approaching him about using their equipment in his videos, and he said it just went crazy. And all he's doing is explaining simple. This is what a drill is and how to put it together. It's just really basic stuff.
Yeah, it's quite alarming that very simple content works well on TikTok. When I first signed up onto TikTok, I must say it took me about 2 weeks of going, oh, I need to understand this platform before I felt like I started to see some quality content. The videos are lowbrow, reasonably low quality,
Yeah.
quite silly in nature, and so it takes a little while before you find stuff that you're actually interested in. But once you do, TikTok gets into a rhythm and shows that stuff to you more often. So in a similar way to how other feed type platforms work. So that's my challenge to people, is I think it's time, if you have not got TikTok yet, I think you should go and have a look at it from a personal perspective, and then have a think about what kind of business content you could start creating, which is short form video in nature. And when I say short form, like 30 seconds is a pretty good target for a video.
Oh,
I
with
talked
video though, are you talking about, should they do a video just 30 seconds straight through, or shoot a longer video and just edit it down to 30 seconds, cut out the ums, the ahs, and
good
everything else,
question.
and just put
Yeah.
it together?
Yeah. So I think first of all, jump onto TikTok and find some other accounts that's in the same industry as you and have a look at what they do. The more effective videos tend to be 1 to 2 second clips stitched together with then a voiceover over the top. And TikTok does provide some pretty good video editing tools for you to be able to do this. The single take is a unicorn situation. If you can do a single take with a voiceover and post that straight on TikTok, you are a unicorn. Doesn't happen that often. And so I
That's on my
think taking, yeah,
my
short little
YouTube
clips.
videos.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, see
one take
you're
wonders. Just one take one. I stuff it up 20 times before I do my one take wonder.
and when you're a talking head, there's not a lot to stuff up.
Yeah, yeah, it
But
is.
when
It's
you have
pretty
to do
easy.
voiceover, it's a lot more challenging
Mm.
because you have to plan the voiceover.
Well, plus if
Something
you're
else.
videoing something and you're shooting it from, you want to see it from different angles. And I've seen some videos like that where they might, whatever it is that they're doing, but they'll quickly go boom, boom, boom from the 4 different angles, and they put them together, and it just makes for a better video.
And when you're next watching a movie or Netflix or something, you'll see that a single scene is not very long. Things swap every 1 to 2 seconds. And when a scene holds for longer than that, it's a pivotal scene. It's got this dramatic point to it. And so now that I feel like I'm a very amateur video creator, I watch other people's video construction to get ideas about this. Something to realize about social video, so this is across the platforms of Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, is when you shoot for those platforms, you need to shoot in portrait mode because people are absorbing that on their phone. Very few people look at those platforms on a desktop. Whereas if you want to be a YouTube sensation like Tyson, you would shoot in landscape mode.
Yeah, yeah, far from that.
Yeah. They display in landscape anyway, and it looks weird because it cuts down the sides, and so the videos look a bit odd when you absorb them in portrait mode. I went to a video editing course last year, which was a game changer for me. It really increased my confidence, both about being in front of the camera, but also about being able to edit. Because as a tech person, you think I would just know how to edit videos, but it really is a beast unto itself. And I learned about an app which makes it quite easy to do, which is called VLLO. So when I say easy to do, I shoot and edit the videos on my phone because I feel like if I need to download them and do stuff on my computer, I'm just not going to get around to doing it. So for that reason, I try to keep everything within the ecosystem on my phone. This is the app that I just mentioned then, VLLO.
Oh,
Got a little fishy there.
VLLO. Okay.
Yeah, VLLO. It's got both
VLLO.
a free and a paid version. It works on both iPhones and Android as well. And it's super easy to stitch stuff together, to trim off ends, to mute or amplify the sound. The voiceover system's very, very quick. And
Was that Kirsty's course
probably
you did?
it is,
Yeah.
yeah. And before that, I was very reluctant to take on any video, and I would think that other people join the webinar today probably feel like that too. Yeah, this isn't for me. But I will say, if you want to get social cut through and you want to get organic reach on socials, then video is sadly the way you need to do this across all of the platforms. And certainly I would consider cross-posting across all three of those. So that is Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok with your videos so that you can get a feel for what works for your demographic. How do you feel about this, Tyson? Do you feel overwhelmed by the concept of shooting video?
No, I'm fine. In front of the camera now, it doesn't bother me. But it's initially, every time if I did a video of myself, I just went, I look stupid, I sound terrible, the lighting's bad, I'm blotchy, I've got a shiny head. Well, I've got a shiny head now. But yeah, and it's easy to sit there and find fault. But like you said, when you're watching other people's videos, and you realize, well, hang on, they don't sound funny, they don't look funny. Okay, their head might be shiny, but it's not really bothering me. You realize that you're your own worst critic with all this stuff.
Aren't you ever? That's so true.
But it does help when you've got the right tools, like the VLLO program. See, when I did the video course with Kirsty, it was a different program. So that's
Gotcha.
that's an updated one that they've got on the phone. So I'll have to go and check that out. But then I have a program called Descript. So now I will dump everything into Descript. It's so easy to edit and do things there.
So I think the takeaway here is start shooting some short form video and have a think about what kind of content that one of your patients would like to see. I think my job is a lot more challenging than that of a podiatrist to get good video content because I sit at a computer all day. It's very boring. Nobody wants to see me typing. And how many kilometers my mouse moves a day, that's not that interesting to most people. So I think my content's harder than most others. As per usual, I tend to post about food because that's what I like. I know it doesn't show this athletic body and all, but yeah, I'm pretty fond of food. So that's what I tend to post about. I will say that TikTok has also started to move into the space of a search engine, and that is that people can find content that they're looking for quite a lot more easily than on Facebook or Instagram. If you've ever tried to find something on Facebook that you've seen before, you should just give up. It's
Yeah, they
very,
can't
very
find it.
hard to re-find things. But TikTok's really handled the search part very well. So if you want to find something like, I don't know, maybe Tyson, what's that thing you taught me where I strap up my foot when it hurts?
How to
It's
strap your
probably
foot
got
up
an
when it
official
hurts.
name. Yeah. So
Yeah, but you had heel pain. Yeah, so I
heel pain. Yeah,
yeah,
strap your foot from heel pain. You did a good YouTube video on that.
I
That's the
did.
kind of thing that somebody would throw into TikTok and look up.
And that was a video that it was a 90-second video. I threw it up there so that I could just tell patients it was there. But I sold the clinic about 6 months later. But I still have the video on my YouTube channel. It's at almost 90,000 downloads. So
That's amazing.
surprising how many people. What surprised me even more is, yeah, I've got heaps of thumbs up, but then there's a few thumbs down. I've gone, you weak mongrels. But what was wrong with it? But
What was
anyway,
wrong with
what was wrong
it?
with the video?
Well, the interesting thing on TikTok is they'll tell you.
Yeah.
It's got that anonymous feeling about it. So if there's something wrong, you'll know.
Yeah, but just anyone that's listening to this, if you're not sure what you could shoot in your podiatry clinic, send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com, and I'll give you a list of things that you could shoot in your podiatry clinic that I think your patients will find interesting. And some of these are some of the things are obvious, and some of the things behind the scenes that you're not even thinking about that I know when I used to tell my patients or I'd show them what we're doing, they go, that is so cool. I didn't know how you did that. So if you want to know anything, just send me an email.
You know what's very popular in the pod space on TikTok is ingrown toenail
No,
surgery.
I can't watch
There's
them.
a lot of videos on that. In fact, I feel like I could probably do it now. I've seen so many.
Oh, there's so many people that can do their own websites, so you could do your own ingrown toenail.
There's no way I would die. There's just no way. It looks quite dangerous too.
Yeah, but it's how can I put it? When you know what you're doing, you make it look easy.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to
That's the
slip.
thing. Yeah. So, but I can't watch videos of Ingo toenails. It just turns my stomach. I can do them, but I can't watch somebody else doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
very
weird.
interesting. It turns my stomach too, and I'm not that fussed on doing
I
it.
know. So, what we better keep moving along.
Yeah, so let's put this to bed now. So I think
Yes.
that's the social update as a complete thing. Is Facebook on decline, Instagram's not far behind it, TikTok's where all the action is, like hundredfold exposure action. But across all of these platforms, the most effective thing right now is short form video. And there's a skills gap there for most business owners I talk to. And it's time to start practicing by shooting a little bit of video and perhaps do a course like Tyson and I did so that you can learn how to edit those videos and stitch them together and post them quickly. Otherwise, you'll just never do it.
And I will admit, when we did that course, I walked away just going, I felt so much more confident on actually putting a video together, had different shots, even though I don't do that myself when I just for the YouTube channel, but I know that I can.
Hmm.
So I should do some just to prove everyone I can.
I think you should too, and I
Mm,
should as well. Maybe this should be in our 90-day goal set for the next 90 days when we
mm,
achieve the current one. Is
yes.
do a TikTok strategy for ourselves. That's a good idea. All right, next topic is I want to talk about the rise of security issues and the efficacy of hackers and how it's just going to continue to get worse. Hackers are much cleverer than they used to be, and you would see every day a couple of emails that are dodgy come into your inbox, but acting on those emails is a lot more risky than it once was. So I just wanted to talk through this. It's not a super new concept, but certainly the rise of scams, particularly related to hacking, is definitely a trending thing. Also, laws are changing about how you have to reveal if you've been hacked, which I think is a super embarrassing thing. If you have to reveal that your practice management software has been hacked and your client's medical data is exposed, I think that's a fairly seriously embarrassing thing, would hit the media. So there's some good reasons to protect yourself. A couple of ways in which you can. Number one, your biggest risk is the reused password. So any password that you have used before, that's where you have a risk. And how this is risky is nothing's unhackable. And so if a large company gets hacked, your username and password is usually revealed as part of that hack, and the hacker will try that same combination somewhere else. So you should try to shift to a space where every one of your passwords is different from each other. They should also be at least 16 characters and be a combination of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. And you will need a password manager to be able to manage all of your passwords. So some good ones out there are LastPass or OnePassword, Dashlane, or Keychain or Google Chrome. Any of these are better than not having a password manager at all. So that's the first thing, is unique passwords. Secondly, is when you add people to your accounts, you should not be sharing those usernames and passwords. You should look for the facility inside the software that allows you to add a user. So don't share your passwords with other people, particularly staff. Look for how you can add them as a person inside the system. Consider having a password policy that all of your staff use so they know they must not reuse a password. Sometimes I find when a business gets a new staff member, they might not yet have an email address at work for them. So they might use their personal email address and get the staff member to set up their own account. They will likely reuse a password. I have seen this at a Chamber of Commerce where an employee was added to the Chamber's email marketing system, and it was a reused password, and a hacker sent out an invoice to their 2,500 members saying, hey, your chamber membership is due. Please note our bank details have changed. And it was over the normal system that they received emails from an authenticated system. So this reused password can be quite serious if it's missed in a high risk space. I wouldn't have thought that MailChimp was a high risk space until I saw this situation. And then we have adopted a policy at work where we don't click on stuff in emails anymore. So if there's a link in an email, we don't click it. If there's an attachment, we definitely don't click it unless we're expecting it to come. So today I asked Tyson to email me something. It arrived, it's an attachment, I would open that. But if I wasn't expecting it to arrive, I wouldn't be opening it. And so that's how we are mitigating our risk around email scams, particularly. If it is a tracking notice that your parcel is coming, definitely don't click on that.
I must get one of them. I must get at least 5 of them a week.
Yeah. Do you order
Always.
5 things a week?
No, but I receive them every couple of days. I'll receive one. Oh, your parcel. There's a problem with delivering your parcel. Click on this link. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't order anything.
Yeah, didn't order anything. Or
Not
if
from
you
you.
did, so if you do want to track a parcel, what should you do? Is go to the website that you ordered from, and chances are you can log in and they'll have a tracking number directly in there. Or in the case of Australia Post or Star Trek or any of those majors, you can copy and paste the number into their website. So you're not clicking on the number, you're just copying the number and pasting it into there, and you can see if it's legit that way. I think I've heard the advice before, put your mouse over the link and check if it's legitimate. But honestly, the hackers are very clever. They buy domain names that's very, very close to the official one. So they might buy australianpost.com or something like that. And it's just too close. You have to be too careful. So that's why we're like, if it
Just
needs
don't click
clicking,
on
we're
them.
not going to click it. Yeah, don't click on it. If it's important, it will come back again. Like if it's an invoice you need to pay, it will come back again. But typically we would be expecting those as well. So that's my advice around the cybersecurity space. Cybersecurity is a lot larger than this, but there's some of the immediate things you can do quickly and cheaply to mitigate that risk. Some of the others are keep your software up to date. Lots of hacks happen through outdated software, and this includes your website software. So one of the things we always do with websites that we build is we put some software on there to automatically update everything as things get released to try and mitigate that risk. It's not nice to fix a hacked website. I had a client recently who said, "Oh, well, they weren't a client yet." I said, "Oh, hey, my website's been hacked. Is there any chance you could fix it today?" And I said, "Oh, well, what's the website?" He said, "Well, I'm a construction company and I'm pitching for a job in Saudi Arabia. And right now, my website is a terrorist recruitment website."
Oh
So
no,
it's not a good look.
no.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. It's not a good look at all. And he was pitching for a pretty massive contract. So yeah, boo. It's hacks are really troublesome to fix because usually we have to drop everything to do it straight away as well. So it's annoying. Nobody wants to be hacked. So especially not you. You definitely don't want to be hacked. So they're the things you can do. I would love to hear from other people in the chat. If you have any questions about this hacking space, or if you'd like some clarification around any of these, please let me know.
I'm also interested if anyone is currently using a password management system. Like you put me onto LastPass,
Hmm.
and the only thing I really need to remember is just the main password
The
to
master password.
the master password. That's the only one I need to remember, and then everything else I just make them up as I go for
And
always
something to
different.
remember is these password managers, they're not immune to hacking either. And so you should follow the instructions that they have around how to form that master password. So that's something that LastPass, for example, have said they want it 16 characters and they wanted a combination. So you have to remember that one. And so what I do is I choose a line from a song and I sing the song to myself as I'm typing in the master password. The last thing I want to say before we leave the hacking debacle behind us is that if any kind of software offers you two-factor authentication or multi-factor authentication, you should turn that on and enable it. It is a bit of a pain in the ass because you have to wait for the second factor. Sometimes it's a text message. Sometimes you have to open an authenticator app and grab a code out of there and stick it in. But
It's
just
worth it.
rest assured you are much, much, much safer because the chances of someone having your password and your phone are pretty slim. It's not impossible, but it's slim.
Mm.
So yeah, it's definitely worth it, but it is slow.
And we've spoken about that in the past when we've spoken about the two-factor authentication, and we're like, oh, hang on, just going to get my phone, wait for this thing to come through, and they say, yes, that's me. But a lot more places are doing that. So yeah,
Mm.
I take it up. May as well do it.
The trend future in this will be a passwordless future. And we are seeing some of the major companies, Google included, shifting the way they authenticate people to being one where they don't use a password. So we will start to see that in the next couple of years become mainstream.
So
So
Jonathan's got a question.
it's
I
a
am
good question.
concerned about hackers using AI to replicate me, example in videos, etc., and them leveraging their output against me. Ooh.
Yeah, we are almost there. We're not quite there yet, Jonathan. It still requires considerable effort to do a deep fake video, but probably this year we will shift to a space where we can do that in real time. As a really interesting example of this, yesterday I'm looking at TikTok and I see a bunch of photo footage about the opera house burning and people standing around the opera house taking footage of this. I'm like, what's going on here? Multiple angles. I thought this was big news, but it was just a deep fake. And uh, it, they people had created that to highlight this very issue. They won't need much of you to be able to create a video of you, so they'll be able to do it from a photo pretty easily, but it will be faster for them if they have a little snippet of video, but they'll only need a couple of seconds.
There
I
is an
think
advantage of the whole deepfake thing is if you do something stupid in the future and it is captured on video, you can say,
just
that
deepfake,
wasn't me, deepfake.
deepfake.
Yeah.
The next stupid thing I do, I'm going to use that.
Yeah, the next stupid thing you do on video, you just say, deepfake, wasn't me.
Yeah, I think this is a concern, and keeping video content off the internet sadly probably isn't the outcome. Jonathan, thankfully, you're probably not that famous yet that it's a risk for you.
Oh, you know,
Like
be
maybe
surprised.
soon, maybe next year, he might be famous enough, but we're seeing the risk factor here mostly in the politician space for now. So yeah, maybe a year or two before you're at Trumpy level, I reckon Trumpy will get some deep fakes during this campaign. I think he'll have
Well,
to go fake news.
I was watching something the other day. Jim Jeffries, the comedian, and he's got a podcast I was listening to called I Didn't Know That. And anyway, they said, "Oh, here's three," and they were talking about AI. They said, "Oh, here's three messages we've got from people who are just saying how much they enjoy your comedy shows." And one was Bill Gates, one was Donald Trump or somebody, and one was somebody else. And they said, pick which one is fake. So he listened to them all and he goes, oh, and he's just listening to it. He goes, this one and this one. He says, I think the Donald Trump one is fake though, because can't imagine Donald Trump reaching out to me. So he chose that one. And they said, sorry to tell you, they're all fake. And he went, so Bill Gates doesn't think I'm awesome. And they went, nah. But he couldn't tell. They were so good.
Maybe next year, if we do a 2025 version of this, let's get Bill Gates and Donald Trump to do a little promo video for us.
But that was really interesting that he couldn't pick that the other two were fake. They were the record, and they said you only need like 45 seconds of somebody's voice it's enough sometimes that you can do a fake message, which that's also something that everyone needs to be aware of.
I just want to lob that up and talk a little bit further about this, Jonathan, of where the risk is right now, because I think we're still a little bit off the risk of real-time video, but real-time audio is on our doorstep, and the risk for that is probably at the moment on a family level. So let's say that I've got a little bit of a snippet of Tyson's daughter's voice, and I extrapolate that into a real-time conversation. So my AI calls Tyson and as his daughter and asks him for money. I think that's a situation where it's pretty close to being available now. Certainly, if you're in America, it would be a current risk, but they haven't quite nailed the Aussie accent yet. So I think, yeah, the American accent they've got sorted. And so in our family, we've decided that we will not have a safe word as such, but we'll have safe scenarios. And so that is, I'll say something like, what did we do on your birthday in 1985? Something like that.
Yeah, but prior to the voice, though, was even just text messages coming through saying that it was a family member or a friend. And I do recall getting one that was supposedly my daughter who was overseas and needed money. And I said, well, it surprises me considering I know you're in your bedroom. So if you want some money, come out and get it. So they've moved from text to voice, and then the next thing will be video.
Yeah, we do see some faked emails being sent internally. So the secretary is receiving an email from the CEO, and the CEO says, "Can you please pay this account for me?" And we're seeing that a little bit now in businesses, but most people are pretty good at email scams like that. They'll notice a typo, and CEO never makes a typo. So
Mm.
mostly we've got a good radar for that kind of level scam. But yeah, I think the video ones, it's on our doorstep. It's just not quite knocking at this point. All
Okay.
right, hacking. Let's put that to bed and move on to our next thing. I want to talk just briefly around client trends for a second. So, client trends now, how are people from a technical perspective? Is our patients are a lot more tech savvy than they once were, especially in the older demographic. I think there have been some big gains. I do seniors workshops at my local library for the council, and they surprise me every workshop with how savvy they are. And uh, well, in lots of different ways. I taught them how to use their digital calendar, and they didn't like typing on that little screen. So I showed them how to use Siri, and they said, "Nikki, why didn't you teach us this first? This is amazing." And so they all talk to their phones and talk to Siri and talk to Hey Google and tell it what to do a lot, which I'm very impressed with. So I think that's something to consider, is that our across the board, our patients, our customers are shifting to a more tech savvy space. What that means is they don't love paper. Nobody really loves paper, but they don't love paper. And getting them to fill out things like their new patient form on an iPad, for example, is no problem. Certainly, if they need glasses, they usually prefer it because they can see everything. There's no tiny print that they need to try to decipher. So have a think about in your clinic, is there anything that maybe still exists on paper for legacy reasons, and look at a more digital outlook there. Also, credit cards are definitely more digital than they once was. That we've got really good acceptance now of Apple and Android Pay. A lot of people carry their credit cards around on their phone, and this uh, last month, we have completely digital licensing here in our state, which means three of the major states in Australia are now digital licensing preferred. So we are starting to see a shift towards this. Australian banks will get rid of checks this year. Most of them have come out already and said, nobody's really using them, so we're going to get rid of them completely. We still have the odd client that pay us by check. They're going to be smarting about that. Maybe you do too, but nobody really wants to put checks in the bank anymore.
I
It's
mean, I'm
boring and
curious.
slow.
Does anyone on here at the moment receive checks from any of their patients? I'm just curious. I'm
We
taking a
get about
punt. I'm
10 a
taking a.
month.
I reckon Jonathan may in the UK.
Yeah, one
Yeah,
patient.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It's-
Well, actually, we received one from. We've got some shares, and one of the companies that we had shares with, for some reason, I don't know why, but they sent us a check with our dividend payment, and we looked at it. What are we supposed to do with this?
yeah, what do you do these days?
And because of the bank, we were with like the shares were through this certain branch. We don't have one in Cairns. We don't know what to do with it.
You know, in the US, they can still pay fuel
I know.
with a check.
I
This
know.
kind of weird
America's weird.
monopoly money. It's really strange.
It is
Yes,
strange that they still use checks over there without any problems at all.
and I think also the cashless world has definitely been well received. There is fewer people holding on to cash unless your demographic are tradies. They still love cash. They carry large wads of cash around with them in their wallet. So I think that's the thing to think about from a patient trend perspective, is the digital world is now definitely within their space. They're happy with it, they're comfortable with it, and there are fewer exceptions to that rule. So things like online booking is now a norm. My GP does not have online bookings, and it's a pain. It's a massive pain. I have to call and have a telephone call with him about, you know, my calendar and his calendar. It's 8 o'clock at night. No, nobody's there on the phone. So I think in the medico space especially, we have shifted towards online bookings now. And if you don't have them, chances are your competitor will pick up that patient. How do you feel about client trends, Tyson? Is there anything that
Now,
irritates you?
now, probably what you said then about the online bookings, prior to selling my clinic, we didn't have online bookings. And I was sort of I was a bit anti online bookings to a point
Mm.
until one day I was sitting there and I had to make an appointment at the doctor, the physio, and something else. And I did them all online at about 9 o'clock that night. And my wife said to me, "So what you think of online bookings?" And I went, "It is convenient, isn't it?" So I can see, definitely, like if I had a website now, yeah, if I had the podiatry business now, 100% I would have an online booking section.
Yep, it's time. It's definitely time. This is what we say. There's technical laggards. We're at the laggards end now. Yeah. So Jonathan says he's still got the occasional rogue online booking from a non-existent patient. Yeah, yeah, that would happen. I think you could verify, have a verification procedure for them, but yeah, we get that too. We get the odd domain name registered by a non-existent patient, so a non-existent client for us. So yeah, I
Yeah.
completely understand. Yeah, there are scammers out there everywhere after all. It really irritates me when I engage with a business as a new customer and I filled out my details online and then I get there and they want me to write it down on paper.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously, guys, you've got this. I don't know why we need to do this. And also, one of the trends, certainly here in Australia, and I think worldwide, is that people are much more guarded with critical parts of their identity. So that is license number, tax file number, passport number, to an extent, address and phone number as well. So especially around identification documents, we are seeing people be quite reluctant in sharing that information with others. Date of birth and signature are another one. So we hear people now go, what are you going to do with this information? How do you delete it? Do I have to give this to you? And so there is pushback on those critical pieces of information. If you don't need them, don't grab them. That's really the outcome from there. If you don't
Yeah.
need them,
And that,
don't
that
take
was an
them.
important thing you said to me last week when you were talking about, when we caught up, about if you give your driver's license to somebody and they need a copy of it, say you're hiring a car, is ask them, what are you planning to do with that after? How do you dispose of that information so that it's not just readily sitting on file somewhere that someone can pull out, or if you happen to need your passport to give a copy to somebody, is making sure that that is deleted afterwards. It's
Mm,
destroyed. It's not just sitting there.
yep, that's exactly it. Is have a destruction of data and process afterwards. I think the worst one is when someone asks you for details over email. So let's say a travel agent wants your passport over email. You're like, no, do you have a secure way of receiving this documentation? Should be the kind of answer. And I think patients will also give you that same pushback going forward. They'll be like, oh, why do you need my date of birth? But you actually need it.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So patient trends aside, let's spend our last 10 minutes together going a little bit further into the AI world. So we've been living with AI now since November 2 years ago, so a bit over 12 months. Most people are fairly familiar with the benefits of ChatGPT, especially from a writing perspective, crafting content, writing Facebook posts, that sort of thing. But many people don't push it further. So I wanted to demonstrate today how you could create your own GPT and how you might be able to use it in your clinic. And this is why I made Tyson email me. I asked him for maybe a procedures document that he had written for his clinic, and I'm going to show you how we might be able to use this procedures document in our own. So most of us have procedures documents which are very, very long. We have a wiki in our business and we've had it for a really long time. So we have our own precedence Wikipedia. But many people have long PDFs or documents for how you might onboard employees, and they're really long and cumbersome and they're hard for people to learn. So, this is a way in which you can have that information quickly accessible on your fingertips. I spend a fair bit of time not at my desk. So, I'm walking between meetings, and so I have my phone available to me, but not necessarily my desktop. And being able to query a document like this is really useful.
So,
So,
and we'll point
Tyson,
out the document that I gave Nikki it's 15 pages, and it was just regarding our system around the telephone and certain scripts when answering the telephone and talking to various patients. So this is a small little snippet out of a reception manual.
So Tyson, I'm going to share my screen. Can you control the webinar screen so that people can see us and
Yeah,
tab? Is that
I'll give
okay?
it a shot. Let's see what happens.
How's it look?
So I should be able to make that bigger.
Awesome.
And I'm just going to make it bigger. And let's see what happens. Layouts. There we go. So everyone should be able to see that as the larger
Awesome.
slide.
So what I'm sharing right now is my ChatGPT account. This is through OpenAI. In my case, I'm using a paid account, so it's about $20 a month. You don't have the full capability of doing everything that I'm going to demonstrate to you on a free account, but I'm going to show you anyway. So first of all, we want to go to this, Explore GPTs. And in this world is a shop. You can use other people's GPTs that they've created. Lots of big companies have created their own, and certainly it's on trend to include a bit of AI in software that already exists. And Canva is probably a really good example of one for people to explore. But we're going to create our own. So up in the top right here, we've got this create button. And I'm going to click on create here, and we're going to walk through the wizard. So first of all, I'll drag in this file. This is the one that Tyson gave me. And I'm going to say, I own a podiatry clinic called Awesome Feet Podiatry. Do you like that? Awesome
Oh,
Feet
yeah, that's
Podiatry.
nice. That's probably a real name somewhere.
This probably somewhere. This document is advice to our reception on how on maybe procedures we use to answer the phone. I want to be able to query this document. And so I'm answering its question up here, what would you like to make? So then send message. It's going to crunch some of these details and update my GPT. So over here on the left-hand side, this is the development of the GPT. And over here on the right, this will evolve over time and give us a preview as to what we've created. And soon we'll be able to actually ask it questions. So it's having a little technical issue. While it's getting itself sorted, I want to show you this configure tab here, because what it's actually doing is updating this configure tab as we go. How about we call it podiatry assistant? Does that work for you? No, make it reception assistant. And so if I jump into the configure tab, you'll see what I mean. It's updating things as we go. So the description is assists with queries on phone answering procedures at Awesome Feet Podiatry. This is the instruction to the AI. Your role is to assist with this, blah, 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 blah. Remember to focus on providing accurate, clear, and concise information from the document, ensuring confidentiality and professionalism at all times. Now, if I jump back here, it says, oh, we've created a profile for you. Do you want to make changes? And I say, yes. Have a person like a receptionist with a headset on. Not that the profile photo is amazingly important, but if you had 20 GPTs that you've created for your business, kind of like we have, you need to be able to find them quickly. And so having them as indications of what the thing does is useful. Oh yeah, she looks
Oh, look
great.
at that one. There you go.
Yeah,
That
that's
looks like a
awesome.
receptionist.
That's awesome. And so over in the configure tab, they've updated that as well. So now some more wizardy questions. Let's refine it. Should this provide direct answers from the document, or would you prefer a summary from the relevant section? Concise. Well, it'd be really good if I could spell. Summaries, please. And so over here now, you can see it's started to evolve. It's got some sample questions here. Tyson, what's something that I could query in this document with relation to identifying biomechanical patients? What's a question someone might ask around that?
How do I identify a biomechanical patient?
Oh, page. Cool. That is in the document, isn't it?
It should be.
Hey, cool. There we go. How'd it do?
I'm just trying to read it. You should ask a few simple questions to understand the type of problems that they're experiencing. If a patient reports any of the following issues, they're likely to be a biomechanical pain. Heel pain, arch, heel, knee, shin, arch, hip. Yep, that sounds pretty good.
Cool.
Complaints about flat feet, experiencing bunion pain, mentioning the need for orthotics or having been told they require foot supports. Biomechanical patients may present with conditions that sound unusual or specific to the structure and function. Yep, that's all good.
All right. My caller says their heel hurts when they get out of bed in the morning. What should I do? What should I do with them? So it's sort of taking that biomechanical a little bit further. Identify as a biomechanical patient, provide information about the assessment. Yeah, that's pretty good.
But it's pretty good.
So I think that's a reasonable thing that someone would ask. They've got heel pain. How do I treat them? And that gives the step-by-step of what to do from that document, so they don't have to find that exact spot in that 15 pages. Now, some final configurations, it's filled these in. Down the bottom, it's got some capabilities. Do we want this to be able to browse the web? And I'd say probably no, because we want to take all of the information from the document. Do we need it to generate images for us? Also no. And then down here, this additional settings is really important. Use the conversation data in your GPTs to improve our models. If this is commercial and confidence, you definitely want to untick that.
So does that mean it's going to stay within your
account
GPT?
only?
Yeah,
That's
good.
right. And then further, under the save menu over here, you have some choices about how you save this. So only me, so only you want to be able to query this. Anyone with a link, because perhaps maybe other people in your team, you want them to query it. Or maybe you create something that's capable of being used by everyone. So in that case, you would do everyone. So in this case, only me. But because this is Tyson's document, I'm not actually going to save this at all. This is the end of it anyway. And I just wanted to demonstrate how that works.
I think
Then
it'd be fantastic to do a webinar just on this.
I think it could be really useful. If we jump out of this, your GPTs come up here. I recently went to Bangkok and I happen to have a programmer who is a partner, and he created us a tour guide for us to be able to ask questions of our tour guide while we were away. So I think there are definitely some quirky lifestyle uses, not just uses within the business, but I think put your thinking hat on and perhaps have a look at how you might be able to use it from a procedural perspective, because it's a good, easy first step to getting started here. All right, Tyson, we've got 2 minutes left. Do you have any questions about the GPT we've created or any other thing that we've talked about today?
No, and I've played with the GPT thing before with documents, and I think it's fantastic. And I can see it, like you said, that was just a 15-page part of, say, my reception manual. My reception manual used to be like 300 pages. So I could see if that whole document was put in there, how great it would be with someone who may have read through your manual if you had a hard copy of it and written notes in their training. But then, there's some things that happen in your clinic where it doesn't happen all the time. And they've gone, oh, how do I do that again? They can tell, how do I do this with the patient? Or what's the procedure for booking the patient? What's the next step after this? That they could easily find that information, and you can keep adding to it and improving upon it. And that's just reception. You get a podiatrist. There's so many different aspects you could use it. So I think doing a webinar just on this would be, if anyone's interested, I think it'd
Do
be
we have
great.
any questions from anybody who's attached to us online right now? Jonathan, I know you're going to have a good question around this. Have you already played with GPTs? I bet you're an advanced user. Your manual's frequently updated. Would you have to rebuild your GPT each time? No, you just update the manual. Yeah, pull it back in again.
So that document you put in there, if I redid that, you could say, here's the new document, please update the information
Please
that's already on file.
Yep, discard the previous manual, and this is the new manual. Use this information now. So yeah, quick and easy there. I use a custom GPT to be able to pull information out of PDFs that I get given through a program, a consultation program that I'm in. So I use it to categorize like how many hours does this person have with me, and automatically send that to a Google sheet so I can keep track of it. So some fast but things that would take you a long time to do, I'm really keen on using the GPTs for that. All right, Tyson, we have reached the top of the hour. We got to our hour length. Thank you so much for having me today. Hopefully,
No, this has been
I've
fantastic.
instructed a couple of new things for people to try. So just to quickly summarize, have a go at short form video, whether it's TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram. That's really where the action is happening right now. Remember that hacking is ubiquitous. They're getting very clever. So start protecting yourself with lots of different things. So don't click on links in emails. Don't reuse your passwords. If you haven't done that already, it's really time to do that now. Patients are much more tech savvy than perhaps we give them credit for. And so if you're not already taking online bookings, then now's definitely the time to do that. But think about other things in your clinic that perhaps you could move into a more technical space as well. And then finally, experiment with creating your own GPT and streamline your processes internally.
So everybody's saying thank you, Jonathan, Narelle, Rebecca. I will start protecting my passwords and start on TikTok. Yes, Rebecca, let's see a bit of TikTok action. That'd be great. So, and I am like, this is being recorded. Through my email, my newsletter program, I'll be sending out a link through the newsletter program to this video. So I'll have that up tomorrow. So if you want to go back and watch it again, you can.
Awesome. We can go watch ourselves on video and see how much we don't like ourselves on video. I feel a bit pink today. See that?
I'm feeling brown. I'm feeling pretty brown today.
Yeah, you look quite tan. Yeah, very good. Thank you again for having me, Tyson.
No, it's been fantastic. Thank you, Nikki, for coming on, and thank you everyone for turning up. And talk to you later. Okay, bye.